If World War III starts tonight, the first thing that threatens you isn't a missile, a drone, or a mushroom cloud. It's confusion. Wars don't kill most people in the opening minutes. Confusion does. Bad information, bad timing, bad decisions made by good people who panic at the wrong moment. Right now, if something breaks on the world stage, the real explosion won't be in the sky. It'll be in your phone, notifications, headlines, clips ripped out of context, fake experts screaming certainty, everyone rushing to tell you what to think before they even know what's happening. And that chaos? That's the weapon, because when people don't know what's real, they copy each other. They rush stores. They clog roads. They empty gas stations. They turn small problems into deadly ones. History is full of people who survived the war itself and died in the stampede. Here's the shift you need to make immediately. You are not a spectator. You are not a civilian waiting for instructions. For the next few hours, you are a decision maker. That doesn't mean heroics. It means restraint. Your brain evolved to spot danger fast and act even faster. That instinct kept your ancestors alive when the threat was a predator in the bushes. But in a modern war scenario, that same instinct will get you killed, because the threat is abstract, delayed, and amplified by technology. The first enemy uses fear as fuel. The moment you feel the urge to do something, anything, right now, that's not clarity. That's adrenaline hijacking your judgment. And adrenaline makes you impulsive, loud, and predictable. Exactly like everyone else. Predictable people are easy to control, easy to mislead, easy to herd. So your first move is not action. It's pause. Not denial, not freezing. A deliberate pause. You slow your breathing. You widen your awareness. You let the first wave of noise pass without reacting to it, because the first reports are always wrong. The loudest voices are always the least informed. And the first public reaction is almost always the worst possible one. This is where most people fail. They think survival is about being faster than everyone else. It's not. It's about being later, but smarter. You let the crowd expose the mistakes before you commit to a move. Right now, your job is simple. Stay calm. Stay still. Stay observant. You are buying time. Time to see if this is real or noise. Time to see what systems fail first. Time to see how people around you behave. Because once you understand the pattern, the chaos stops looking random. It starts looking predictable. And predictable threats? Those are survivable. This war, if it comes, won't be won on day one by force. It'll be won by the people who didn't panic on hour one. And that's the position you're putting yourself in, starting now. If World War III starts tonight, your instincts are going to scream one word at you. Go. Get out. Get moving. Get away from whatever you think the danger is. That instinct has gotten more people killed than the threat itself. Because the moment you step outside without a plan, you're no longer in control. You're part of the crowd. And crowds don't escape danger. They create it. Here's what actually happens in the first hours of a global crisis. Everyone gets the same idea at the same time. Gas stations choke. Highways freeze. Airports collapse into chaos. One accident turns into a parking lot full of people sitting in cars with empty tanks and no information. That's not an escape route. That's a trap. Movement feels productive, but movement without intelligence is just panic with momentum. And here's the uncomfortable truth no one wants to hear. Your house, right now, is probably safer than whatever you think you're running toward. It has walls. It has familiarity. It has supplies you understand how to use. The road has none of that. Leaving early sounds smart until you realize early is when infrastructure is still working just enough to draw everyone out, and then fail. You don't want to be halfway somewhere when fuel stops pumping, when cell service drops, when a single closed ramp turns a highway into a metal canyon. This isn't about fear, it's about timing. In the first phase of a crisis, danger doesn't spread evenly. It concentrates along routes, bottlenecks, intersections, places where thousands of people funnel through a handful of exits. Staying put isn't passive, it's strategic. Your home is a known environment. You know the doors, the sounds, the neighbors. You can control light, noise, visibility. From inside, you can observe without being seen. From the road, you're exposed. And here's the part that really matters. You can always leave later. You cannot undo leaving too early. Once you burn fuel, you don't get it back. Once you reveal your direction, you don't get privacy back. Once you commit to a route, every problem on that route becomes your problem. So for now, you shelter. You gather information. You watch how the situation unfolds. You let the first wave of panic clear out the mistakes. This doesn't mean you never evacuate. It means you don't evacuate blind. You move when you have clarity, when you know where you're going, why you're going, and what you'll do if that plan collapses halfway through. Until then, your house is not a cage. It's a buffer. It's buying you the most valuable resource in any crisis, time. And in the opening hours of a world-altering event, the people who survive aren't the ones who ran first. They're the ones who waited long enough to run right. If World War III starts tonight, the most dangerous weapon you'll be exposed to isn't explosives. It's information. Or, more accurately, bad information. In the first hours of any major conflict, truth doesn't spread. Noise does. Rumors outrun facts. Confidence replaces accuracy. And the loudest voices are almost always the least reliable. Your phone will become a fire hose of panic. Breaking news banners. Unverified clips. Influencers translating chaos into certainty. Every alert pulling your attention in a different direction until your brain can't tell signal from static. This is how people lose control. The goal right now isn't to know everything. It's to know enough, without drowning. So your third move is this. You lock down information the same way you'd lock down your home. First, cut the noise. Turn off non-essential notifications. Social media is not intelligence. It is emotional amplification. In crisis, it exists to spread fear faster than facts. Scrolling does not equal awareness. It equals stress. You want fewer sources, not more. Pick 2, maybe 3, that's it. One official emergency alert system. One mainstream news outlet you trust. One backup source for confirmation. Anything beyond that is redundancy, not safety. Second, prepare for silence. Cell networks don't fail dramatically. They fail quietly. Calls don't go through. Messages lag. Maps stop loading. When that happens, people panic because they built their awareness on constant connectivity. Don't be one of them. Charge every device you own while you still can. Phones, battery packs, laptops. If it has a battery, top it off. Download offline maps. Save key numbers. Screenshot instructions instead of assuming you'll be able to pull them up later. Information you haven't stored is information you don't own. Third, understand timing. Early reports are wrong, they always are. Initial casualty numbers, initial targets, initial explanations. They shift, they contradict. Acting on them locks you into bad decisions that feel urgent but aren't accurate. Your job is not to react to headlines. Your job is to watch for patterns. Is infrastructure failing? Is power unstable? Are authorities giving instructions? Or just statements? Statements are noise. Instructions matter. And here's the rule most people ignore. If everyone is reacting at once, it's probably not time to act yet. Mass reaction means incomplete information. Clarity comes after the surge, not during it. By locking down your information, you're doing something subtle but powerful. You're slowing the crisis down to a speed your brain can handle. You're keeping your decision-making system intact while everyone else burns theirs out. Because panic isn't caused by danger. It's caused by overload. And the person who controls what comes into their mind controls how they move through chaos. Doors can be reinforced later. Right now, you secure the signal. Because once you can see clearly, every next move becomes easier and safer. If World War III starts tonight, you're not preparing for years. You're preparing for hours. Most people get this wrong. They start thinking about bug-out bags, long-term survival, fantasy scenarios that belong in movies. That kind of thinking wastes time and burns focus. Right now, your goal is simple. Stabilize your environment. Your home doesn't need to be a bunker. It needs to buy you time. Start with power. Assume electricity is temporary. It might last days. It might last minutes. You don't know, so you treat it like a countdown, not a guarantee. Turn off anything unnecessary. Preserve battery life. If you have extension cords, power strips, generators, stage them now while your hands aren't shaking. Next, water. This is not optional. Municipal water relies on pressure, power, and people showing up to work. Fill everything. Bathtubs, bottles, pots, even containers you'd normally ignore. Clean water buys you calm. Calm buys you clarity. Then light. Darkness creates mistakes. Candles are fine, but they create fire risk. Flashlights are better. Headlamps are best. Light that keeps your hands free keeps you functional. Put one in every room you might need to move through. Now, temperature. You don't wait until you're cold to insulate. Close off unused rooms, hang blankets over doorways, cardboard towels, trash bags, anything that traps air works. Heat lost is heat you may not get back. This isn't comfort, it's physics. Next, visibility. Light attracts attention. So does sound. If things deteriorate, you don't want your house advertising activity. Close blinds. Kill exterior lights. Reduce noise. You're not hiding in fear. You're reducing unnecessary exposure. A fortress isn't loud. It's quiet. Now do one thing most people forget. Clear space. You need room to move, to sit, to sleep without obstacles. Trip hazards become injuries when stress is high. Injuries become emergencies when help isn't coming. Push furniture aside. Make the environment forgiving. Finally, set a central zone. One room, one area. This is where you rest, monitor information, store essentials. Centralization reduces stress. Scattered supplies create chaos when you're tired. And that's the point most people miss. A crisis doesn't beat you with one big hit. It wears you down with friction. Every extra step, every search in the dark, every "where did I put that?" drains energy you may need later. By fortifying early, you're removing friction before it compounds. You're not panicking. You're compressing chaos into something manageable. Your home becomes a buffer between you and the outside world. A place where variables are limited and decisions are slower, but smarter. This is not about fear. This is about control. And in the early hours of a global crisis, control is worth more than strength, weapons, or luck. You're not preparing for the end. You're preparing to outlast the beginning. If World War III starts tonight, your instincts are going to betray you again. You'll think about food, pantries, cans, protein, calories, how long you can stretch what you have. That's what survival movies teach you to worry about. But food is not the emergency. Water is. You can go weeks without eating. You cannot go days without drinking. And in a crisis, dehydration doesn't announce itself dramatically. It shows up as headaches, confusion, bad decisions made by a brain that's slowly shutting down. That's why water systems fail first, and why they matter most. Municipal water depends on electricity, pressure, chemicals, and human coordination. It doesn't take a direct hit for it to stop working. All it takes is a power interruption, a staffing issue, or a single damaged pumping station. When water stops flowing, panic starts flowing instead. So before you organize food, before you inventory supplies, before you think about anything long-term, you secure water immediately. Fill everything: bathtubs, sinks, bottles, jugs, pots, containers you've never used for this before. If it can hold water, it's now a water container. Clean or not, fill it. You can purify later. Empty containers are wasted opportunity. People hesitate here because it feels silly, excessive, paranoid. Those people are the ones lining up with buckets when it's too late. Here's the math that matters. An average adult needs at least half a gallon of water per day just to function. More if you're stressed, cold, or active. That means a family of 4 burns through 2 gallons a day doing nothing but existing. Water disappears faster than you think, and once it's gone, every decision gets harder. Now protect what you store. Keep containers covered. Store them off the ground if possible. Cool, dark places, slow contamination. Label if you can. Not because you're organized, but because confusion wastes resources. If you have filters, purification tablets, or boiling capability, great. If you don't, still store water. Dirty water can be made clean. No water can't be fixed at all. And don't forget this: water is more than drinking. You need it to cook, to clean wounds, to stay warm, to keep your body functioning under stress. Food can be rationed aggressively. Water can't. This is why experienced survivors always secure water first. Not because they're paranoid, but because they understand systems. And water systems are fragile. Once you've stored enough to buy yourself days, something changes psychologically. Your stress drops, your thinking slows. You stop making desperation moves. And that calm, that's a survival advantage, because wars don't just test resources. They test judgment, and judgment collapses fast in a dehydrated brain. So lock in water now. Not tomorrow, not after the next headline. Now. Because the people who regret this step always say the same thing afterward. I didn't think it would stop so fast. By the time you realize water matters, it's usually already gone. You're making sure that's not you. If World War III starts tonight, a lot of people will make the same mistake. They'll try to look strong. They'll strap on gear, flash weapons, talk loudly about what they have and what they're ready to do. They'll turn survival into a performance because fear pushes people to signal power. That instinct is dangerous. In unstable environments, strength attracts attention, and attention attracts problems. The safest people in the early stages of chaos are not the most intimidating ones. They're the ones you don't notice at all. Invisibility is protection. Here's why. When systems start to fail, information dries up. Trust erodes, and people begin scanning their environment for resources: food, water, shelter, security. Anyone who looks prepared starts to look valuable. Valuable things get tested. That doesn't mean you disarm yourself or leave yourself vulnerable. It means you don't advertise capability. You don't broadcast readiness. You don't turn your home into a signal flare that says, "There's something worth taking here." Light is the first giveaway. A brightly lit house in a dark neighborhood becomes a target, not a refuge. Kill exterior lights. Dim interior lighting. Use blackout methods. Light discipline isn't paranoia. It's standard practice anywhere danger exists. Noise is next. Raised voices, music, tools clanking at night. Sound carries farther than you think, especially when the world goes quiet. Noise tells people where you are, how many of you there might be, and whether you're calm or panicked. Calm is quiet. Then there's behavior. The more aggressive someone looks, the more others test them. Not because they're brave, but because they want to know if the threat is real. Posturing invites challenge. Silence discourages it. This is where the armed equals safe myth collapses. Weapons without discipline don't create security. They create escalation, and escalation draws attention. You can't control. Most early violence in crises doesn't come from organized conflict. It comes from misunderstandings, fear, and people pushing boundaries. The invisible household avoids all of that. Blinds closed, lights low, movement minimal. No obvious routines. You exist, but you don't announce yourself. And here's the psychological edge this gives you. You observe without being observed. You see how people move. You hear what's happening. You notice patterns. Visibility removes that advantage. Invisibility keeps you one step ahead. This chapter isn't about fear or hiding forever. It's about not becoming a problem someone feels compelled to solve. You don't win survival situations by dominating your environment. You win by not being selected by it. Because in the early hours of chaos, attention is the most dangerous currency there is. Spend as little of it as possible. You don't need to look ready. You need to stay untouched. And the best way to do that is to be forgettable.